what is so great about that splashing water is I don't have to get in it at all. That is just to alert you that we have started another terribly exciting episode of Swimming Upstream Radio Show. I'm Dorothy Wilhelm. This can hardly come as a surprise. And we're here. The whole point of Swimming Upstream is to introduce you to people that you wouldn't meet otherwise. And today, I'm really excited to be able to introduce two marvelous people to you. First of all, Sandra Solon, our Crafty Canadian, who is she still likes us. You do like us, don't you, Sandra?
Absolutely. My heart.
Okay. Well, I should think so. And let us meet together Jason Falls of Falls and Partners. This is our new home. He hasn't told his wife yet. His new home, where we will all be going after the show. I hope she has something good ready for he's going to be in charge of editing and production, and we're going to have some fun, I think. And there will be a new show every Monday now.
Yep. So and don't forget, the show will now be available on YouTube, which it had not been before. So that's good.
And I think LinkedIn too.
Yes.
It's just terribly exciting. So, and we've only known each other for 37 minutes. So, so anyway, today, Jason, I know, be still your circulating heart. Every time I say that, every time I mention Jason's name, I think I've got 5 kids older than he is. So I hardly know whether to ask him to call me mom or what. But anyway, today we're going to talk about activities and ideas for summertime. So do your magic, Jason. Miss Sandra, tell me, I know the first thing is you've just come back from a very exciting trip.
We did. We spent a little over a month touring India. We flew into southern India and Kochi and went around. And then we flew up to Delhi and did the circle up there. And I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about big populations because we're a small Canadian. There's probably more people in one city in India than there is in the entire country or province of Canada. I don't know the numbers, but there's a lot of people, and how they all interact. And it was life-changing, actually. I learned a lot of things and saw a lot of things, and very happy to have been able to have that opportunity.
Well, did you see anything the one thing for me in that whole part of the world is the crowds, there's never a let up. It's almost hard to imagine living with all this.
Well, of course, we spent time in the cities, but we also went up into the tea and spice plantations, up into the cooler mountains. You can see the cities below. But there's certainly, you're surrounded by water buffalo and tea as far as your eye can see, and very small villages. So that there's kind of the yin and yang. There's the big busy places, but there's also the small little villages where you really see how, people live originally, I like to say, where they produce all their own food and they make all their own clothes and bracelets and their own world around them without, going to Walmart or any of the big shops that we have. They have their little grocers and they do a lot of bartering because of the lack of banks in the little villages. They rely on their jewelry to be the banking, but they wear all their jewelry. So you see beautiful people, in their silks and their gold in the fields because it's not secure to leave that at home. But you need it for your day-to-day bartering on the way home, perhaps, instead of cash.
So did you see anything there, though, that you wish that we were doing here?
More, it was such a small community that everybody looked after everyone, like it takes a village. The kids were all looked after by the other kids. And the other adults, the older people looked after the younger people and vice versa. There was a lot of responsibility for that social net that we have lost, I think. with our care homes and stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that as per se, but these people live together. So you've always got a grandma or you've always got a grandchild, and it's that mix of age, I think, that keeps the community more active and more alive and more human, really. And everyone fed all the animals. All the dogs were fed by different people. They didn't really belong to anyone, but everyone put out a bowl of food or a bowl of water. And same with the oxen, of course, are sacred, and they're everywhere, even on the highways, which I found was very hilarious, that everyone is in a mad rush to get everyone. There's no real lane or traffic control, except for if there's an oxen on the road, then everyone stops and goes around it very nicely. Hello, cow.
I understand you found out some things about tea.
We did. I didn't know, except for the fact that I enjoyed tea, and I have a Brown Betty teapot because that's what you're supposed to have, the British style of brewing. But there's every kind of tea comes from one tea bush. And I didn't know that. I thought that white tea was a different bush than green tea. And it is in the way that they process it, but it's also the layer of the actual plant. So for example, the bud on the very top, the very soft little tiny leaves, that's white tea. And then you go down 3 leaves and you get green tea. And then the 4 or 5 leaves below that on the stem, on the same stem, is black tea. So as you can imagine, picking tea.
Sandra, say a little more about that, because it's hard to imagine. So let's think about this. So all the tea is on the same plant.
All the tea is on the same plant and on the same branch. So as you go down the branch, you'd have your little flower bud on the top, and that is the white tea. It's kind of the underdeveloped, brand new leaves coming out. That's the bud of the tree, and that's white. Then the next 3 leaves are green. And they're a little bit more mature leaves, but they're still very soft and young. And then the leaves before that will become black tea. So as you can imagine, picking tea has never been really an automated thing, because it's very hard for the machines to do this gently and to divide those leaves into the proper assortment of tea that they become.
I always imagined that they were different plants. So
I did too, actually. And I was quite interested to find out that I love all teas, but now I know why the white tea is very much more expensive than the black tea.
It's just that little bit.
Because it's just that little bit. The funniest thing I found, which I never would have thought about before, the water buffalo walk through the orchards of tea or the plantation of tea, but they don't eat the tea. They don't like the taste of tea. So they just graze the weeds between the rows of tea bushes. So they don't have to do any of that. They just let the water buffalo roam through. And of course, when they get too close to the road, there's somebody out there with a stick reminding them that people live on this side of the street, you live on that side of the street. So, and then they fertilize the tea as well as they walk through. And they don't sleep there, so they don't damage anything. These huge animals walking between these rows of tea plants, not disturbing anything, but leaving their dung for fertilization and eating all the leaves, all the weeds, as a great, labor saver, really, for people. So to insist like that is pretty fantastic.
The water buffalo is a remarkable animal. We experienced them in Taiwan in the same way. They were out in the rice paddies and walking among them. And however, when at night farmers bring the water buffaloes inside, I imagine the Indians do too. They're too valuable to be left alone.
We didn't notice any, but they do look after them. We didn't notice. I mean, they just went to a field on the side of the hill that didn't have tea. That's where they were sleeping the next morning that I found. But everything is very well tended. I never saw, and it might have. We were there for a long time in several different places, but the animals are very respected. It's not like, oh my God, there's starving dogs all over the place. That's not the case. They're very well looked after, and they have a role to play, that they keep down the rodent population, and they keep the leopards away from the villages, and kind of protect. They don't really have one owner as per se, but they kind of protect the whole village. They're village dogs, and they almost all look the same because they've been bred within their circle for so long that they all look the same, very much like a dingo.
How did you happen to decide to stay there so long?
We actually went on a tour group. So it's a tour group out of Australia. So we did 2 halves of that, the south and then the north. And then we added days on because we wanted to explore on our own a little bit too. So
it's a good idea, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But it wouldn't be so. Has it changed the way you look at tea, the tea you drink, or do you drink a tea any differently?
No, it certainly does. White tea, for example, can be steeped many times, 3 or 4 times.
Really?
So that's a good value for the expense of the actual product. But you only, and most people put a tea bag in the bottom of a teapot and pour boiling water over it. Mm-hmm. Not ever again for me. You have to steep it for a certain amount of time, then you remove the tea. I will only drink now loose tea, and it's been like that for a while for me. And I'll tell you, when we were in the production line of the tea, and all the tea comes in from the fields and it goes through, and now at the end of it, it comes down the chute and into the big burlap sack bags. Well, one of the bags kind of tipped over, and a woman rushed over, and of course, she swept up the tea that had hit the floor. And it wasn't dirty or anything. It's a factory. It's well maintained. But she put that tea back in the bag, and I thought, well, that's where the dust comes from. When I taste a tea bag.
Yeah.
But then for me, it's been overproduced, so it kind of breaks down the flavor a bit. So the bigger the leaf and the loose leaf, especially the black tea, I think it's got the best flavor. And you know how tea was discovered, Dorothy? I laughed my head off. It was a total accident. The Emperor of China, known as the let me look at my note. He was called the Divine Farmer. Yep. And he discovered tea when his manservant was boiling water. A leaf happened to fall in the pot, and the emperor decided that he liked the color of the water and the aroma, and that's where tea came from. It was already an indigenous species. No one developed it. I mean, it's been developed.
Well, most things, started that way. Now, I must say, this wouldn't be the Crafty Canadian if you didn't have some crafts for us. Do you have something to share? Or?
Well, summer's coming up, and we're going to go out in our RV, and I've got all my paints and things, and the kids get too distracted. My grandchildren are 9 and 4. I've got one that's a little bit younger, but too young to be involved in the crafts. So we're going to do some not hide and seek, but treasure hunting. I've actually, on the hide and seek note, I find it very disturbing to play that game because kids can hide really, really well. And I don't want to lose a kid. There have been some terrible outcomes.
Don't you always tell them where they can't go? I mean, isn't there a...
Well, when we're out camping, it's pretty hard to say, like, don't go under the truck. You can't go under here. You can't go around the trees.
I would say don't go under the truck. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. But that's where the dog likes to lay.
I know, but we can run over the dog. We can't run over the kid.
Oh, not my dog. The kids know which order they're in.
Okay, now let's try hard now to find a craft that you can give our listeners to.
I think one of the funnest ones that I've done with all ages is and I've got picture frames that are old, just an old wooden picture frame, and you just plop it down anywhere. Could be on the lawn, could be, on a gravel driveway, obviously not on pavement. And then to find out how many things that you can find within that square. And as many things as you get a prize for the most, and usually I bribe my young kids and the grandkids with food because that's what they seem to like, is snacks from grandma. But it keeps them busy for a long time because the one that gets the most gets the prize. So,
well, I take that a little further in that rather than having a picture frame, which would necessitate my having a picture frame, we take yarn and cordon off a yard.
Yeah,
and they do love it.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as putting sticks down in a square. The main idea is to have every kid have approximately the same area and the same diversity of landscape. But to find a universe in a puddle is very exciting for the kids. And I never ever worry, like, don't get muddy, don't go in the water. That's not part of my vocabulary. And another one is edible wild food. I would never let them pick mushrooms at this age, but they can certainly find clover and find dandelions and things that they can eat. We were at a park. My daughter's having a birthday party for one of the other kids, so I went along to help. And we were in a park, and my grandchildren were running around picking clover and dandelions and a couple of things of sweetgrass, and they were eating them. And I heard another grandma say, I wonder whose grandchildren those belong to, because they were picking the wildflowers and eating them. But that's one thing that I really like to teach any of the little kids that can understand which berries come from which. And that I think is really important. There's so much that you can eat just off your lawn if you don't fertilize it.
And there's no dogs.
Well, yeah.
I'm a little apprehensive about that. How do you make clear to them what is safe to eat and what isn't? I mean, you're worried about losing a kid. I've never lost a kid, but I think I've given them food poisoning. What is it?
Well, the ones that are edible that I show them, like I would not take them out mushroom foraging at this age because there's too many similarities. But the ones that you can really see, like the dandelions. And then I came home and I made dandelion cookies. The cloves, we always make something with it. So it's from farm to table, but in a wild sense. And I just make very sure that they don't pick anything or eat anything until they come and show me.
Deb, let me ask you about the dandelion cookies. What's in them? I've never had a dandelion.
You know what? I made dandelion shortbread cookies that are so beautiful. They come up the real yellow color. And the only addition to a basic butter, the cookie is the dandelion leaves. So they don't take up any space and they don't create any moisture. You just add it to them like you would a raisin or something like that. So the shortbread cookies were amazing, and they're little yellow, bright yellow.
Are they a regular?
Out of my face.
Yeah. Are they a regular shortbread cookie or?
Yep. And it just says to add the dandelion flowers to it, and you just pick the yellow part. And they're very easy to take the green off the yellow off the green, and they're perfect right now before they start to go into that beautiful, cylindrical wish. That are called fruit, by the way. Once they turn into the little, and I always call them seeds, but it's actually a fruit. So, and that part is edible as well.
Well, yes, but it is a seed, just the same.
Yes, but it's got everything inside of it it's got the seed inside of the pod.
Yes.
I think that's what makes it a fruit. So that one I don't know. I learned gardening from my grandmother, and she did it exactly the same way as I'm trying to do it with my kids. Just one thing at a time. And it used to amaze me, my grandmother walking through the garden. She knew the name of every plant. She knew what was a weed and what wasn't. And as a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old child, it just blew my mind that she had all this knowledge. And now I have it because I followed her around. So that's what I'm trying to do with my children too. They know how to do that basic little bit, because who knows, we might need to grow our own chickens to get our own eggs.
We might. Well, what would be the chances of getting you to send us the recipe for the dandelion cookies?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I made a sugar cookie as well, just a drop cookie. And all I did was add a half a cup of dandelion flour, like the little yellow bits.
I just can't believe it. I really want to see the recipe. So anyway, I think that'd be fun if you didn't mind. And then if people wanted to, they could. And as long as we're getting toward the end of the show, actually, well, no, if you would send them to me, because then I would send them to people when they.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you can get hold of Sandra, the Crafty Canadian, and you can see why she is called that thing. And she is at, tell me your address, my dear.
It is Crafty Canadian Studios, that's plural studios, at gmail.com. So Crafty Canadian Studios at gmail.com, all one word, from Canada.
And in some way she's managed to be with us every month now.
As long as you call me Dorothy, I'm your girl.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it, and I enjoy sharing little tidbits that.
And of course, that's what tidbits are us. We like things that nobody else already knows. If they already know them, why do they need us?
Well, it might be a gentle reminder to brew the tea properly, the right temperature, the right time of steepage, and enjoy that cup of tea with no milk or sugar. That's how it's really supposed to be.
No milk or sugar.
No, if you leave it, and again, I'm talking about high quality tea that's steeped to a certain temperature and a certain time. After that time, it becomes very bitter, and of course, there comes the milk and the sugar. But if you're brewing a proper cup of tea, it'll be sweet and gentle on your palate as you go.
Wowie. I didn't know that either. And now that we are with Jason Falls and partners for our Swimming Upstream radio show, we will have a new show every Monday. You only get one a month.
No, I can only do one a month. As casual as I look, I do other things.
What else do you do?
I do all kinds of volunteer work. This weekend is Earth Day. Yes. And we developed a free cycle. About 15 years we've been doing it, where we gather up boxes of unwanted household items and good quality clothes. And then on Saturday, and we've got a truck and a trailer full. We usually have more than we can actually give away in the time that we do it. But it's all Saturday morning, 10 o'clock to 2 is all free. You just come in. We've got bags and boxes that you can take away as much as you want. And this, we've seen the same families come back year after year now. Some have a few more kids, and some kids have grown on, but they still come every year. to either drop things off or to pick up things for free. So, yeah, come on up to Maple Ridge on Saturday.
I don't think I wouldn't love to. And the Crafty Canadian joins us every month on the Swimming Upstream Radio Show. So you want to be right here next month, same time. Sandra, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dorothy. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much.